story of the last ruling family of Russia is an interesting one. The family consisted of Tsar Nicholas II, his wife, a German-born princess named Alexandra, a son, and 4 daughters, the most noted being Anastasia Romanov. The family would eventually one day be assassinated, but a question remained on whether or not the entire family was assassinated in that attempt. Now, what makes this story so interesting is that Tsar Nicholas was once considered to be one of the most powerful men controlling all of Russia. And when he married a German-born princess, who also happened to be granddaughter to Queen Victoria, he expanded his influence to include Europe. Now, this family had both immense wealth and power, and yet the family would eventually be overtaken by communist revolutionaries. Now, in talking about the Romanov family, it tends to be somewhat controversial because there are those who believe that all of the family was killed during the assassination attempt. There are others who believe that Anastasia Romanov had somehow survived the attack, while others believe that there is no possible way she could have survived. Especially when you consider that the communist revolutionaries were extremely determined to be rid of the royal family. Could it be possible that one of the soldiers, in helping to be rid of the royal family, would also help to aid Anastasia in her escape? Now, one of the reasons that the family was assassinated was because of their growing distrust towards Alexandra. Tsar Nicholas was considered to be a merciless man and a terrible general. While out on the battlefield, instead of strategizing ways to win wars, he could often be found writing love letters to his wife. This did nothing to help ease the growing distrust of the Russian people. In addition, they didn't trust the people that she most associated with. She could often be found with a mystic healer by the name of Grigory Rasputin. Rasputin was said to be an advisor to Alexandra, but in reality he was a mentally unstable person and actually an opportunist. Now, the reason that Alexandra confided in Rasputin was because that she was determined to help her son, who was suffering from hemophilia. Now, Alexandra believed that Rasputin could help her son. In addition, he also became her advisor in state matters as well. Rumors began circulating that Alexandra and Rasputin were members of a pro-German court group that were helping to aid in the autocracy of Russia. In addition, the Russian people began to feel that their Tsar did not care for them. He was often leading them into battles where many Russian people were losing their lives. The economy had taken a turn for the worse, and food prices had nearly quadrupled. Now, this is when the communist revolutionaries were able to take control of the royal family. They were said to have been held hostage for about a year, and in that time, despite their circumstances, the family was said to have made the best of the situation. They were said to have been loving and were happy that they were all together as a family. Now, early one morning they were awakened and were told that they were being moved into another room for their protection. Now, this was believable to the family because gunfire could be heard in the distance, and this was a signal to them that their salvation was near. Instead, the armed guards pointed the guns at them and began shooting them. Now, it is said that the daughters survived the first round of bullets because they had sewn the family's diamonds and other jewels into the lining of their clothes. Now, once the entire family had been assassinated, their bodies were taken out into a wooded area where they were doused with acid. From there, now, this is where the mystery of whether or not Anastasia survived the assassination attempt comes into play. Many women came forward claiming to be Anastasia, the most infamous being Anna Anderson. Now, from there, rumors began circulating of how Anastasia could have possibly survived the assassination attempt. One of the most popular stories was that one of the soldiers who was responsible in helping to bury the family would help Anastasia in her escape. And it was said that once the assassination had occurred, her body was taken out into a truck where they were driven to a wooded area. Now, from there, although the soldier noticed that she was gravely injured, he helped Anastasia escape past the armed guards and eventually helped aid in her survival. Now, rumors of Anastasia's survival were embellished by reports of trains and houses being searched for Anastasia Romanov by Bolshevik soldiers and secret police. They did not find her. Years later, when the remains of the bodies of the family had been found, the bodies of a young girl and a young boy were missing. Now, the fact that the body of a young girl was missing helped to fuel the fire that it was possible that Anastasia had somehow survived the assassination attempt. Now, as I noted earlier, Anna Anderson is the most famous of those who claim to be Anastasia. Anna Anderson was discovered after she had attempted suicide by jumping off a bridge in Berlin. From there, she was taken to a mental hospital where she would speak very little, and when she did speak, she would do so in Russian. The doctors at the hospital also noted that her body was covered with scars from bullet wounds. Now, members of the royal family, to include aunts, uncle, and a grandmother, did note the strong resemblance to Anastasia. And moreover, Anna Anderson also knew personal details of the family that was considered not to be well known. For instance, Anna knew the pet name given to Anastasia by one of her aunts. Now, despite the similarity and despite her knowledge of personal details, this was not enough to convince the royal family that she was indeed who she claimed to be. Now, this could be because the royal family had a lot to lose if they did assert her to be Anastasia Romanov. For instance, they would have to relinquish their control over the family's fortune. Now, to this day, it's not really known whether the family really believed that she was not Anastasia Romanov, or whether they were just unwilling to relinquish their control over the family's fortune. Now, in 2007, the remains of 2 bodies were found, and DNA tests did confirm that it was indeed those of the missing Romanov children, thus ending the mystery of what really happened to Anastasia and her brother. It was also determined through DNA testing that Anna Anderson was a Polish worker who frequented mental hospitals at the time when she claimed to be Anastasia Romanov. Now, no matter what your position on this story, there are still many people who claim and who will continue to believe that somehow Anastasia Romanov had survived the attack and was not killed with the rest of her family. Now, are there any questions? Thank you.